Hello and welcome to the Clock and Talk, an Arsenal podcast, and we're covering, for fuck's sake.
Good job me and Schwinn are a lot more prepared than you, because if we came on and went, oh yeah, we didn't watch the game either, we was on the piss, it'd be a pretty shit podcast.
Well, Mesut Ozil is the best number 10 in the Premier League.
Yeah, that all looks good on paper, but there's never been a football match played on paper, so it's not really worth much.
I'm going to make a bold prediction that Jack Wilshere will sign for West Ham United.
It's time to start watching football with your eyes. I think people listen to what the commentator's saying and have that as their own opinion, but if you watch what's going on, you'll see things a lot clearer.
Schwinn, who do you think is going to win the Golden Boot?
I think Alexis Sanchez might do a number on that this year.
Okay. Tony talks about a clock being right twice a day. Tez is right every day. Try it from 5, lads. Fucking beauty.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. You're with us here at the Clock End Talk. You can follow us at clockend_talk on Twitter. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, and I'm on Snapchat. So you can get us there. Absolutely pissing myself laughing at my own Snapchat. That's how fucking entertaining I am. Anyway, each and every week I'm joined by two lovely chaps. Well, I'm told they're lovely, but they don't want to show their ugly heads on TV and YouTube. So we'll stick to this platform. Tony, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I noticed you didn't give everyone your Snapchat name so they can join the hilarity of you on Snapchat.
No.
Plug yourself.
I don't even know what that thing is. Probably just Tez.
I mean, it's not.
No idea. I honestly have no idea, mate. Anyway, I'll work something out later. Just search Tez, it'll probably come up. Schwinn, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. I highly recommend people follow you on Snapchat because it's as it is, it's pretty hard to tell what you're saying most of the time. But when Tez on Snapchat, it's even better. So you guys, anyone listening to this show should definitely pester Tez into giving them his username because it's worth it.
Yeah, just look for Tez. You'll be right. Now, Schwinn, talking about can't understand any, but what the fuck was that tweet that you were banging on about was?
I mean, I thought it was pretty understandable. I obviously spoke about the Football Leaks revelations that dropped earlier this week. And, my insinuation was that it's a disease and no one's taking care of it. So I thought it was pretty... self-explanatory to that extent, but clearly not.
Did you read that, Tony?
Yeah, it was me that tweeted last night that I think you need to have a dictionary to hand and look up pretty much every other word.
He always puts these big words in to make him look smart, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was one of them cases of why use a 4-letter word when there's a 12-letter word available.
What words are you talking about here? Because I'm reading the tweet right now and I don't see anything that can be substituted with easier language.
Oh, I wouldn't know because I don't know what they mean. So I don't know if they can be substituted, but I know that there's got to be a way that I would understand. Chimera?
That's a disease. Well, it's a mythological creature which was known to have a lot of nuance and.
So there's no better way of saying this, right?
Correct.
There is.
Like
and then
he's the only simple cunt.
Sounds like Bellerin got fucked by an offal.
He's the only bloke that fucking pulls out some fucking weird dictionary every time he writes a tweet. Get simple, mate. Get simple like and us and our listeners.
Yeah, the hashtag #DiOppresso Liber. Like, what?
Yeah, that hashtag's trending at the moment, Tony.
Now, I wish to speak more about that hashtag and explain myself, but I'll probably save that for off-air because of some other reasons. But let's get off this and let's get on to important things, yeah? We can have a crack at me.
I've just opened the hashtag and Twitter said what?
Righto, let's get into this game, boys. Arsenal, Liverpool. Tony, thoughts on the lineup, mate?
Me and Schwinn were talking a couple of hours before kickoff, before the teams came out, and we both listed our teams at what we thought Emery would play, and mine was that, but Iwobi instead of Mkhitaryan. It's a tough one. We're really struggling on that right wing because Iwobi's been in better form, but he can't play on the right. Mkhitaryan's been bad for the last few weeks, or just not really involved, but he can play on the right. So I still think we're struggling from the lack of having a natural right winger. And it was either play someone who's not playing too well on the right in Mickey, or play someone who's playing very well but not in that position. Either way, it's a tough call, and he obviously went with Mickey. Probably not what I would have done, but it is one of them 50-50 decisions.
Schwinn, your thoughts, mate?
Well, for starters, Leno retained his position once again. Last week, of course, we spoke about this, but Cech had just come back from injury. And in the build-up to this game, Cech had already played at Blackpool. So again, there were some questions for Arsenal fans whether it's going to be Leno or Cech. And I think all of us will agree that we were happy to see Leno in goal. Socrates was not available on matchday squad. That was a bit interesting to see what's going on there. I think he's still being assessed, as the Arsenal Twitter had tweeted out before game day. Hector Bellerin had a lot of strapping on his right thigh. I'm sure Tony noticed as we speak more about how he was going back and forward because he had a more comprehensive view of things. And Sead Kolasinac back in the lineup. So that was interesting. I think our friend the Mole tweeted in the build-up to the game that he tweeted just Sead Kolasinac with a fist bump. I'm not quite sure what he meant, but it seems like he knew something that we didn't, and he was available. And I'm sure we'll speak about him as well. So, I mean, it's hard really to nitpick at things considering the way the match went. But all in all, I wasn't too surprised by the lineup.
Usually we go through all the match facts and whatnot, Tony, but I'm just looking here. There's not much to go off until after half time. But I'll go in with what we saw with our eyes, I suppose, is I was really impressed with Arsenal. I thought we came out with a bang, actually, and I thought we were the better team in the first half anyway. And I just won't touch on the second half yet. We'll get into that. But just your thoughts in on the first half, mate?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty open. I mean, obviously it was 0-0 at half-time, but it wasn't like a boring shutout 0-0. Both teams had chances. I think we probably had the better of the play, but they had the better chances, I think, if I'm being honest. Van Dijk obviously hit the post. Van Dijk, where he chested it down and Leno saved it. I think he should score. I don't think he should give Leno the option to save it. And then obviously the disallowed goal, which there's obviously been huge controversy about. Their disallowed goal. Obviously, we had a disallowed goal as well. Probably fairer. There's no, it was just offside. And then the Mkhitaryan chance, the header, for me, he's got to score. If the keeper beats him to it, you say fair enough. But once he's got his head on that ball, I think you have to put it on target. I think his header and Van Dijk's similar are both pretty much identical. That once you beat the keeper to it, you only have to get it on target. You don't need power. You don't really need any real direction. So I think both of them probably should have scored, but Liverpool probably edged it in terms of chances in the first half.
Since you brought up the controversial goal, it should have been a goal. Was it a goal? Everyone's type of got their own opinion. Your thoughts, Matt, on the Mane? Was he offside?
It should have counted. It should have been a goal. For me, the rule is wrong. But with the rule the way it is, and written as it is, it's a goal. Because he was well offside, but the ball doesn't go to him. And then Firmino, as soon as Firmino shoots, or as soon as Firmino touches the ball, it becomes a different phase of play. Yep. So then Firmino shoots it, suppose, and when Firmino shoots, Mane is onside because he's behind the ball. So as much as I'm delighted it wasn't given, and I think the rule is wrong, because he clearly gains an advantage by being however many yards offside, and it's almost undefendable. If a player stands on the edge of the 6-yard box for the whole game, you either have to defend on the 6-yard line and leave them knowing that if they get wide, the guy's got a one-on-one or basically a tap-in every time. So I think the rule needs to be looked at. But by the letter of the current rule, it should have been a goal, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. It should have been a goal, and I'm glad it wasn't. So I'm happy. But yeah, I think it should have been. Schwinn, there was a chance, a really good chance, I thought, with Lacazette, and it just frustrates you. You know, he just seems to miss them really easy chances. I know the Mkhitaryan chance was there as well, and Tony was pretty critical of Mkhitaryan because I thought, look, I see what Tony's saying with that header, but for me, it wasn't as easy as what I suppose Tony was trying to say. You were a bit disappointed and said that he obviously should have scored at Tony, but for me, it was a little bit. There's a lot of pressure. You know, Alisson was running up towards him. He'd obviously, you know, you'd feel Alisson was there somewhere. So
you've got to not worry about getting hit. As I said, it wasn't like he needed to beat the keeper. Once he's got his head on the ball, it could go at 1 mile an hour as long as it's on target. It goes in. So
he only had to go up and over, really, didn't he? Over Alisson.
Alisson came in behind him, so they didn't even have to go up and over. He just literally had to get the ball on target.
Yeah, I suppose when you look at it like
there was
that,
pressure from Alisson, but Alisson was never going to get there. It was a mistake by Alisson, as it was a mistake by Leno for Van Dijk's chance. And I've seen loads of people say, "Oh, Van Dijk should have scored that when he hit the post," but no one mentioned that Mkhitaryan should have scored. And for me, they're the same chance.
Okay. Schwinn, get your thoughts on it, mate, and also, as I mentioned, the Lacazette chance.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the header, I sort of agree and disagree to an extent. I think it's not as easy as maybe we're thinking. You know, I mean, it came early in the game, and at that point we were quite in control, I would say. I mean, up until maybe up till that incident, actually, we were enjoying a lot of time and space down our left wing. Aubameyang looked really good, and of course, he's the one who played in that ball. I agree it should be on target. You know, that's the least you should be doing. I think Mkhitaryan maybe, you know, saw Alisson charge out from the corner of his eye and maybe got thrown off a bit. Not ideal, but that's obviously what happened. I would say Van Dijk had the better chance, although it was contested because he's bigger. Leno is a smaller keeper as opposed to the other situation, so maybe I'm being a bit biased there. But something interesting that popped up at halftime was, you know, I was listening to Alan Shearer and Tim Sherwood, and they both said that those incidents should have been penalties. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Completely agree. I thought it at the time. I always say this. I'm pretty sure I've said it on here in previous podcasts, that if that's on your foot and you kick it and someone else takes you out after you kick it, it's a penalty every time. When it's your head, and it doesn't matter where on the pitch, even in the centre circle, when it's on your head, it seems like, as soon as you head it, the ball is gone. So you never, ever get free kicks or penalties for that, for being taken out after the ball was gone with a header. So I agree they should both be penalties, but you never, ever see that given. As I said, if it was on the foot, they both would have been given.
I agree with you as well, Tony, and I must have had the same commentary as you, Schwinn, because they two would be talking about exactly the same thing at half time, and I thought, yeah, okay, interesting. So yeah, I have to agree with that.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, obviously the Mickey header was much before Van Dijk's, and if we get a penalty, then the complexion of the game completely changes, because right after that chance was when Mane got a chance, right? That was ruled out offside. And then Liverpool enjoyed a spell of possession where they were getting a lot of joy down our left side. You know, Kolasinac was quite high up. I think he was sort of catching his breath after a quite rampant 20 minutes or so. Holding had to recover quite a bit because our line was quite high and they were playing Salah behind quite a lot, and Holding always had to recover. To his credit, I think he did well in certain situations, but then Liverpool seemed to threaten. So the game could have been quite different if we got a penalty during that time. As for the Lacazette chance, I think that was just an audacious pass for one by Mesut Ozil. You know, he has a quick glance behind his shoulder, sees Lacazette between Robertson and Van Dijk, and just a beautiful back flick or back heel pass, whatever you want to call it. And Lacazette just dragged it that much wide. He should have, again, kept it on target. Jim Beglin said that he almost thought he was going to go for a Cardiff sort of shot where he tries to go near post and find the ceiling of the net. But I think, he tried to go far post, obviously, which didn't work out. But that was probably the best chance of the half, I would say.
Yeah, agree. Now, just get your thoughts, because I thought Bellerin had a really good game. So I just want to talk about Bellerin quickly. The only thing which frustrates me, Bellerin, and I don't know if you boys noticed it, he becomes in to a point where, he's in open space and he's the bloke that we're looking at to take a shot. And I'm not a big fan of that one. Don't get me wrong, like Emery's definitely brought the best out of Bellerin, and you can see that on the field. But then when it comes to him taking a shot, I cringe every time. So because I wondered whether if it was somebody else taking a few of them shots and we found, in that open space, would we have gone up 1-2, whatnot? You notice that, Tone?
Well, the only shot I can think he had was at 1-1 just after we equalised with his left foot, and that
was a hard one. That was
but that's the only one I can think he had, and that's a symptom of arriving late. And you got to think he gets that space to have a shot because he's a right back. It's not like you could swap him and put Lacazette there, and Lacazette would be afforded that same time and space. So it's not like they plan to set up Hector to shoot, but more often than not, the fullbacks are going to be in space. Just something I forgot to mention on the first half, we worked the corner again, the same one we worked against Cardiff, where we go low to the front post and they flick it back, and Xhaka end up having a shot from about 12 yards, and you thought, perfect, Xhaka's left foot 12-yard out, and he ended up scuffing it, and you just think, you couldn't wish for that to be set up any better, and it just didn't come off. And we done the exact same against Cardiff, and it was Ramsey that took the shot, and again the exact same happened, he scuffed it. But it's nice to see us being inventive with set pieces again.
Yeah, no, I agree. Your thoughts on Bellerin, Schwinn? You thought he had a good game, mate?
I thought he was all right. I do suspect that he wasn't 100%. It seemed as if even when recovering, he was, a bit gingerly, and I would imagine that's a lot to do with the extent of his recovery. I don't think he was 100%, and I thought he did fine. And of course, the goal we conceded, or another goal we almost conceded, was from their side. Of course, Milner's goal, and then Mane could have gotten behind when Salah played him. But I thought Bellerin was fine. I mean, he did have another pop. I think it was right outside the box. Maybe he was straight up, looking at the goal perpendicularly, yeah. But again, not an easy one. I mean, if you look at that chance from the goalkeeper's angle, you'll see that there are two Liverpool players that are almost forcing. Their positioning is almost forcing Bellerin to go towards the right, and that's what he did. He tried to, get an outer curve on the ball and just sort of spun it out wide. But yeah, I mean, he's not the most confident shooter, but what we have to remember is that when the ball falls to Bellerin in those circumstances, we usually have an overload in the box. So if he gets a decent shot away that is somewhere on target, then either by deflection, the ball could go in, or it could force a save, and then the ball could, land to an Arsenal player who could finish it up. So I don't expect a right back from that angle particularly to find the back of the net. It would be nice to, but as long as we are able to test the goalkeeper in one way or the other, I'm not really going to complain.
Okay, let's get into half-time. Obviously, we go in level. I still stick. I think Arsenal. I think we played the better half. And then it was a goal that Liverpool got in the 61st minute. Tony Milner.
Yeah, it's a horrible one because obviously I'm never a fan of keepers parrying it back out into their area, like straight in front of them. But when he's on a stretch like that, it's all we can really do. If he leaves it, does Salah get a tap in at the back post? Who knows? But then you hammer him if he leaves it and that happens. He's a bit unlucky. He got the touch and it hit Holding and bounced back into the middle. It's one of them. I think it's for a keeper. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I've seen people blaming him. I'm not sure I'd put like a heavy fault on him for it, but it is what it is. For me, he has to touch it, and he's got a bit unlucky with the ricochet off Holding. Good finish by Milner, to be fair.
Yeah, I agree. I was at the start when I seen it. I was blaming Leno, and I thought, fuck. But then looking back at it, look, what did he have? What could he have done? He you know, some say he could have went it, you know, just hit the bloody thing out the back line or something and play the corner or something. But it's that moment, you know, it's that reaction, that moment where that's what he done and that's what he done. But he would have been praying that it had gone to an Arsenal player, but it was just unlucky, I suppose.
Yeah, I did see. So I can't remember where it was. I saw someone go, "Oh, he shouldn't be pushing that back out in front of him. He should have put it behind for a corner." And I'm like,
yeah, I don't know.
He was on full stretch. How? Like, it's not even possible.
I know. I seen the same thing, and I thought, how the fuck would he like? It was like, yeah, put yourself in that situation, and it's just, I don't know, he's a professional, but it's just a fucking reaction, like, and that's the reaction he took. I'd love a goalkeeper's perspective of it, you know. If I guess he was trying to find an Arsenal player to hit it out to. So,
to be honest, I don't even think in them situations you're trying to find anyone. I think he thinks someone behind me's got to tap in at the back post. I've got to stop that happening, and then the ball goes where it goes. And I don't think that's a Leno thing. I think that's all keepers think the same thing. They're stopping a guaranteed goal, and they're basically playing the lottery. They're stopped in their head. They're stopping a guaranteed goal, and the ball may fall to a Liverpool player who ends up scoring, or it may go to no one and we're safe, or it may go to an Arsenal player and we're safe. So they're playing the chances. They're doing what they can to stop what they feel is a guaranteed goal, and maybe it'll come good, maybe it won't. And in that occasion, it didn't. But I think it'd be very harsh to put the blame on him.
Yeah. Your thoughts on it, Shwin?
I mean, I don't disagree with you guys. It's sort of disappointing the way we conceded the goal. Not what happened with Leno, but in the build-up to that, you know, it came from nothing for one. Robertson played a simple pass in behind. Mane was very good in sucking Bellerin in and then just taking a spin and dashing towards the byline where Robertson found him. And I mean, the cross was almost hoping that someone will be there, but you know, I don't think there was an imminent danger as such in the box. It had good pace on it, and maybe that's what led Leno to parry it instead of controlling it and him keeping it in his spell. Should Granit Xhaka and Lucas Torreira be there to mop up? Again, it happened so quickly that maybe it's unfair if we circle them out, especially considering the game both of them had. So good on Liverpool to take us, you know, by storm in those 30, 40 seconds. I noticed Jurgen Klopp's reaction right after the goal, and it was very muted and understated. It's a big game. Jurgen Klopp obviously is someone who's very animated on the touchline, and you know he celebrates every goal. But you could tell that he wasn't quite confident that this is the end of it. We knew even as spectators that there's more in this game. We obviously enjoyed a lion's share of the possession. We controlled the midfield up until that point. So, you know, they knew that we are going to knock that down and maybe try and give this a go. So it did knock the sails out of my wind, I'll tell you that, but it didn't out of our players, and that's what matters. So, you know, these things will happen, especially against the big teams when you have a lot of quality. And it's these areas where we need fine-tuning, and I'm sure Emery will do his best to make sure these things don't happen in the future.
You touched quickly about Klopp and his sideline antics. Fuck me, what a classic that bloke is. Huh?
He is, but I'll tell you what, the amount of times they showed Emery yesterday animated and gesticulating.
The same. Yeah, I was just about to say, I think Emery may have won the battle with him though yesterday, because they kept going to him on the sideline on the cameras and going, he's just fucking playing with him.
Yeah, I mean, Tony probably has the best view out of the lot, you know, in terms of looking at Emery, because he's literally right in front of him. But I think Emery was shown way more on the camera than Klopp was, and again, it was down to how animated he was and gesticulating and asking for more, ramping up the crowd. He was the orchestrator almost in a way yesterday, and I really enjoyed that.
No, same. 68th minute. Obviously, I thought it was going to happen. I presume Schwinn did as well. I've seen a few of the boys talking and whatnot. Ramsey, bloody Mkhitaryan, he came off, and Wobie came on, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was pretty much in the ground, was waiting for Mkhitaryan to come off. It's strange because I've looked at at Twitter since, and people saying, "Oh, Mkhitaryan had an okay game. He had a good game." Blah blah blah. There's quite a lot of opinions. Everyone in the stadium, and I will always say things always look different at the ground. I'm not saying if I've got a better view or a worse view. I'm just saying everything always looks different. Everyone at the ground thought Mkhitaryan was terrible. So we was literally, everyone was waiting for, the only reason we knew we weren't going to make a sub at half time just because we was probably on top, or we was well in the game and was playing well, so you don't really want to change that. But everyone knew as soon as either Liverpool got 10 minutes of pressure, or if they scored, which obviously ended up happening, that it was going to be Mkhitaryan to come off, because he just wasn't in the game. And as I said, people have maybe seen things I didn't, and it's led them to believe he had a better game than I thought he had. But every single person I've spoke to at the stadium just couldn't believe what they were seeing from Mkhitaryan, to be honest.
The boys haven't put their ratings up on the Clock and Talk blog, so I haven't really got a guide to go off there. What would you give him though, Tony, if you were doing a rating?
5. He wasn't out and out terrible. He didn't really do anything. He gave the ball away a bit needlessly a couple of times, and then obviously missed that header. So yeah, probably a 5. I don't know. I always find it hard to rate people.
Yep. And you, Schwinn, your thoughts on Mkhitaryan's game yesterday?
Look, he didn't have a great game. To add to what Tony said, there was another chance that fell to him in the box. He could have just swatted that with his left foot right into the net. I think he was 8-10 yards out, and he opted to control it, and his touch let him down. I think the Bellerin shot that we spoke about earlier actually came off of that Mkhitaryan missed touch. But at the same time, I think he gives us something that no one else in the squad does. When we're trying to hold the game and control the midfield, and Mesut Ozil is dropping deeper, then Mkhitaryan tucks in centrally, and then he does some good link-up play. That back heel for Aubameyang comes to mind, that was blocked pretty well by Van Dijk. He obviously got in behind and made a hash of that when he could have found Aubameyang, but I think some credit goes there to Virgil van Dijk, who I think had a very good game.
I forgot about that. That Van Dijk done well, but he shouldn't be allowed to do well. Mkhitaryan
he shouldn't. He probably had 3-4 seconds to look up and see Aubameyang in tons of space, and he didn't. He looked to control the ball and kept his head down, and that could have been a goal for us very easily. So there are things, you can tell that he's suffering a bit in terms of confidence. But the thing with Mkhitaryan is that we don't have anyone else who can come in on the right and do what he does. And yes, it's not ideal. I'm surprised that we haven't seen Welbeck come in there. Tony, for example, has been shouting out for that for a while now, but obviously Emery doesn't seem to concur. I would imagine Welbeck to be a pretty natural fit for that position. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And, Iwobi, for all his qualities, just doesn't seem to be able to perform on the right. So who comes in? Ramsey? Probably not. I would choose Mkhitaryan over him. I think he shows a lot in terms, again, in moments where we can see the quality, but it's just not consistent. Forget over games, but even within a game. And I think with confidence that might come back. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed because I think he can play a pivotal role in this team, especially against specific teams. But yesterday was obviously not his day, and I think most Arsenal fans would agree with that.
So then, obviously, Ramsey does come on for Aubameyang. Well, not really for Aubameyang, but Aubameyang goes off, Tony. And then we had a bit of a switch up because I don't know whether Emery was saying that obviously Iwobi wasn't working on the right, so he come back over to the left. Ozil went to the right, and Ramsey went in and played at a 10, I suppose. That was in the 73rd minute. What was this? Thoughts on that change there in the ground?
It was a strange one because I thought Aubameyang, maybe to say he played well probably isn't true, but I thought he always looked dangerous. He was, as we said, if Mkhitaryan gets that ball across at the back post, he scores. He had 2 chances in the first half. One, as Schwinn said, was blocked by Van Dijk. Another one was blocked by someone else and went out for a corner. He looked lively. So there was a big surprise when he came off, especially for Ramsey, because you kind of think, where's the goal threat gone? No, you've got Ozil on the right, who isn't particularly a huge goal scorer. Ramsey's only got 1 goal this year. Iwobi, I think, has 1. I'm not sure. Yeah, Chelsea. I don't think he has another one. And even as well as he's been playing, he's not known for goal scoring. So it looked like we're trying to get back in the game, and we're taking off probably our biggest threat. And for me, I would have kept them both on, Aubameyang and Lacazette, when you're chasing the game. I thought the substitution was wrong. Obviously, it's been vindicated now, and Emery can ring me and tell me I'm a twat if he wants. But no, I wasn't sitting at the ground booing over it, but I thought it was the wrong change.
And then, obviously, a couple of minutes later, the 80th odd minute, Welbeck comes on, Kolasinac, he looked absolutely fucked, though, to be honest. He was...
I don't know if this came across on TV. He looked a lot slimmer.
Did you really?
No.
Yeah, I said it in the first half, because he's... in the first half, I'm in line with where we defend him pretty much, but he's over the other side of the pitch. And I said to the guy next to me, I was like, maybe because I'm far away, but he looks quite trim. And then when they switched in the second half, and obviously when he's bombing forward, he's right in front of me, I thought he looked slimmer.
Yeah.
As I said, he maybe didn't. But TV, you'll get a better view because you get close-ups. I see what I see.
Mm-hmm. No, I never noticed it. But yeah, so he went off and Welbeck came on, but then you could say genius move, I don't know, because... that's where, you were just talking about the Ramsey, Aubameyang, and then Lacazette, he gets a goal in the 82nd minute.
Before I go on the goal, one of the funniest things I've ever seen at football is that Danny's come on, and you can see the message hasn't really been made clear to Iwobi that he's going to left back, but they've kind of got it through to him somehow. You're going left back. And I think Liverpool had a goal kick or something. And he's just bombed forward straight away, Iwobi. And I think it might have been Xhaka just turned to him and was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah." And then just after we scored, I'll talk about that in a minute. Just after we scored, he bombed forward straight away again, and I think Shaqiri got not in behind, but was in behind Iwobi. And everyone was just looking at him like, seriously, like, be a left back. But I don't blame Iwobi at all, because he didn't know what was going on. It was just so funny to watch. Literally, his first instinct as soon as the ball was kicked was just sprint forward. It was funny, but yeah, the goal.
I was, just before you were saying that, I wasn't going to say Iwobi went left back, because I was still scratching my head at who the fuck is playing left back. And it wasn't until later down the track you obviously seen that, who it was. But yeah, I was for some time when that substitution happened, I thought, who's going left back? I thought it would have been Granite, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what we was all expecting. And then, as I said, Welbeck passed the message on to Iwobi, and that's what I mean. There was some confusion, because I think the players probably thought it was going to be Granite as well. But yeah, it was funny.
I'll talk about this goal, mate, from the stadium.
Yeah, it's a great ball from Iwobi, and maybe he had that time because he was now a left back, and the defender's attention was more on Danny Welbeck, who was on the left wing. It's a great ball, perfectly weighted. I've seen some people blame Alisson, but I think he has to come out to Lacazette's feet there. And for me, what makes it is Lacazette's, I think it was his second touch, so he's taken it away from the keeper. And then the touch that brought it back in just gave him so many options. He could go near post, he could go far post. There was an option to pass as well. And my angle was so perfect for this. I'm like diagonally in line with the post. So as soon as Lacazette hit it, you knew it just needed to beat Gomez. Alisson was out of the game. I think it was Gomez. And as soon as it was past him, we knew it was in. And I know these things happen in milliseconds, but when a player takes a shot in a close game, it seems like it takes about 10 seconds to get in the goal. But with that, because I could see it was just in from my angle the whole way, it was like celebrations way before it went in the net. It's a great finish. An all-round good goal, to be fair.
No, it was. It was we were cheering. You were looking on the TV, Schwinn. You would have been cheering, mate, going 1-up.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was such a striker's finish in that regard. And we often complain about Lacazette on here that he's not in the box enough, and when he is, he's usually there at an acute enough angle where he cannot find the back of the net, or he's just not involved in the way we want him to be. We often also praise his work rate and how he drops into midfield, tackles, and is not afraid to put a foot in. But I mean, apart from what happened right before the goal, I think even the build up to the goal was, if I remember correctly, quite comprehensive. I think we moved the ball around side to side quite a bit. I think the ball started on the right flank, then came towards Iwobi. I think Ramsey did very well to drag Trent Alexander-Arnold wide, and that sort of opened up the space between Gomez and Arnold for Iwobi to slot the ball through. Again, these things happen very quick, but there's method to how players move, and the separation that Lacazette then created, as Tony said, was all he needed to find the back of the net. And I'm sure the Emirates erupted at that point, and because we deserved that goal to an extent. It was expectation, not just hope. It was expecting for us to score. We controlled the game pretty much, I would say 60-70% of the time, and we deserved that goal. So credit to Emery for his subs, because when Aubameyang came off, I was scratching my head as well. That why would you take off someone who has been posing a constant threat? Maybe Emery wanted a bit more creativity coming from the left, and he sacrificed something going backwards, something in terms of defense. But then when you go ahead and score a goal like that, because it's subs you made, then you vindicate yourself, as Tony said. So happy days, good finish, great celebration, and we could have actually gone and stolen something more from this at the end of the day. But I'm happy with the 1 point we got.
Now, I was too busy fucking screaming and running around, you fucking beauty. And I fucking sat back down and calmed down and looked up. And I sees this cunt giving fucking Lacazette a yellow card. What did he actually do wrong, Tony?
Going into the crowd.
Is that it? You just went in over in the crowd?
Yeah, there's been a big, not the Lacazette one, but there's been a big debate here ever since about the Leicester player getting booked for taking his shirt off. And it's obviously very similar and very different. It's the letter of the law, and I feel sorry for the ref in the Leicester game because he has to give him a yellow card. He doesn't want to give him a yellow card, but you've got to do it. And it's the same with the Lacazette one. It's not caused any offence to anyone, but the rule is if you go into the crowd, it's a yellow card. So it's just, again, it's another one where you can argue with the rule. I can't argue with what the ref done. He's applied the letter of the law, which is what he's there to do. Whether the letter of the law is correct is obviously a complete different matter.
Okay. Okay, special mentions before we do, and then, actually I'll get your man of the match, Tony, and then I'll go around to you, Schwinn, but obviously you can do a couple of shout-outs for some other players as well.
Yeah, well, mine was a difficult one because I left the ground thinking it's out of Mustafi and Xhaka, and probably just about Mustafi, if I'm honest. I thought he had a really good game. Then I was looked on Twitter and whatnot last night, and there was loads of mentions of various players, and I didn't see anyone mention Mustafi. So I was like, again, maybe what I've seen in the ground is different to what I've seen on TV. I looked at who scored literally just before we was recording, and they gave it to Mustafi as well. So whatever their stats-based model is. But then I also looked, they gave Trent Alexander-Arnold a really good rating, and I thought he was terrible. I rate Alexander-Arnold, but I thought he had a very poor game. So I was like, you can't really rely on what they say. But yeah, from what I saw, I think it's very, very close between Granit and Mustafi, but I would have just leaned towards Mustafi, to be honest.
Okay. Schwinn?
I agree, Mustafi had a very good game. And, people have been showering a lot of praise on Holding, but I think Mustafi had a much better game. He bailed out Holding many, many times. Holding's not the quickest, so you need your center back partner to come and mop up, and I think Mustafi did very well in a lot of instances. Even when Van Dijk was through one-on-one against Leno, when Leno made that save, Mustafi is the one who came in and mopped up because the play wasn't dead. So Mustafi was very, very good. But when you play a team like Liverpool that relies on energy in midfield, and the way our boys, both Lucas Torreira and Granit Xhaka, performed yesterday, I thought was very, very admirable. I mean, Lucas was fucked by the end of it. You could tell. I think he was feeling it. He sort of just spread himself on the ground in the 89th, 90th minute just to catch a breath because he ran. I mean, I haven't seen the stats, but I'm guessing he ran the most out of any player on the field. But I have to give it to Granit. The way he controlled the game yesterday. I think he also led in terms of recoveries, tackles made, interceptions made. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I did see a tweet to the tune of that. So when you play a team like Liverpool, it's not easy to do that with the energy in midfield. You have to keep looking over your shoulder to make sure Salah, Firmino, and Mane aren't pressing you. And the way we control the game, it has to be Granit for me.
Yeah, I agree. But just on, look, I'm going to say Granit, obviously, because he was just brilliant. But I'm just going to say about Torreira very quickly, and you did touch on it, Schwinn, and it's not the first time we've touched on Lucas's name. You know, well, we've obviously brought him up a few times. I just have to add how well has we seen him mature into the Premier League. Like, he came out of the Serie A for was it Sampdoria?
Yep.
Yeah. So like, if he's come out of there and people go, oh, you know, it'll usually take you a year to settle in the Premier League and different things, but I look, he's brilliant for me. He's settled in really, really well, and I don't know many players that have come to the Premier League and settled in as quick as he has. So, and the partnership between himself and Granit, I think, is just absolutely. It's like a fine wine, Schwinn. It's fucking brilliant.
It is. It's so crucial in that part of the field because very oddly they sort of complete each other. You know, whatever Granit lacks, Lucas makes up for, and whatever Lucas lacks, Granit makes up for. I mean, when we got him, obviously there was a betting in period and Arsenal fans were a bit, they were not quite understanding why Emery's taking his own sweet time. And I think yesterday's game, Lucas announced himself to the Premier League in a way. You know, in the build up to these games, we've often been accused of playing the inferior teams, and obviously some ex-Arsenal players have come out and said that Liverpool would thrash us or something to the tune of that. But when you have that sort of a spine in the team with Lucas leading the charge, I think there was this one particular incident when he dispossessed Fabinho, passed the ball forward. We lost the ball within 2 seconds maybe, and then he dispossessed Wijnaldum again. I think that must be the second loudest roar in the stadium, only to the goal that we scored. And it's that sort of work rate that we've lacked in a lot of situations before, a lot of years before. I don't feel scared now when a team is running at us on the break if I see Lucas back there, because I think he positions himself very instinctively and is able to mop up for the players that have committed forward. And then that gives us something going forward if we get the ball back. He's not shy to put a foot in. He's not shy to put a ball through. There was an incident in the game where he found himself in the middle of the park just charging at goal, and he was happy to take a shot on. A lot of players in that regard might have tried to slot in Hector Bellerin or Kolasinac, who were in tons of space. So I think that there's a lot of impetus he injects into the midfield and by definition into the team. And we've lacked that very desperately over the last few years. So, I would go as far as to say he's one of the most important people in the team because he completes the team. He may not be scoring the goals. He may not be making those last-ditch tackles. But the fact that he helps us retain possession and keeps those attacking moves fluid for the front four is almost priceless at this point.
No, couldn't have said it better myself. I just will add though, like we've gone, what was it, 11 wins in a row or something like that, or undefeated. Well, that'd be 12 now, wouldn't it? But anyway, what I'm getting at is that game I wanted to actually have a look at how far we've come because, we played against, obviously we got beat at the start of the season in Manchester City and Chelsea. They were the two games that, look, we all would love to take a point out, but realistically, it was Emery's first type of two games and we never really got to see what Emery was all about and how the team was going to perform. But then we've gone along, we've won, and then obviously a little bit of a slip up against Crystal Palace with a draw, and then we have Liverpool, and I even said last week, I was expecting a 3-1 loss because that's probably just what I was always expecting from Arsenal. It was like, fuck this Liverpool team, they're a very good team on paper, and that they could really smash us here. So that was what I was basing mine on. But now you've got a team in Liverpool who are now sitting top of the table. I know Manchester City play tonight, but when this podcast comes out, they may have already won. But it really for me showed what this team's all about this season, and to go up against Liverpool and take a point away from a point from Liverpool. I know we're at home, but I'm fucking happy, boys. Like, it's just like it just doesn't happen. So, and I think we're on par, boys. We're I think, like, okay, I'm happy. Like, the top 4 is a realistic achievement, I think, this season. Tony, you would have been pretty happy with the result, mate.
Yeah, I think one of the main things I can say is I came out of the ground thinking we're every bit as good as them. We now have to be consistent and show it every week. But you could argue that maybe we deserve to win, or we could have won, or they could have won, and you can argue that either way, and you'd probably be right. You could make a case for both sides winning that game, but you can't come out of that and say there was a clear gulf in quality between the two sides. I know we were at home and whatnot, but then we had some injuries, they had some injuries. But yeah, I think the overriding feeling was that we're as good as them, and can we prove it every other week? There's no good proving it against them and then losing to Wolves next week. So that's the challenge now. I mean, there's always this argument, can they do it against the big sides? And I know I said on here last week that I couldn't care less. If you beat the other 14 sides home and away, that's about 84 points. That gets you top 4. The games against the other big sides are vanity to make you feel good, but the vast majority of the points, or anyone can tell you, that you get more points from the other 14 teams than you do from the 5 of the big sides. So it's the consistency now to keep that up is what's key. But definitely it was a strong performance, and there was a lot of positives to come from it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And let's continue on, hopefully, like you say, against the Wolves next week. Okay, well, that's it for us. We're going to get into some questions. But just before I touch on that, and Tony, while I dig up some questions, you want to just explain, we've got a competition running for a Arsenal shirt?
Yeah, so our friends at, is it Arsenal Urban or Urban Arsenal?
Yeah, good question. Urban Arsenal, I think.
Yeah, so
I
our
think
friends
it's Arsenal Urban, actually.
Arsenal Urban, okay.
Yeah, they're such good friends we don't know their name. But they're giving us a shirt. They've given away a few before, so we've had a few previous winners that have got theirs and they're happy with their prize. We couldn't decide how to give it away, so what we've gone with is YouTube subscribers. So find our podcast or our channel on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and they'll all go into a draw. We'll do an automated draw, and the winner gets a shirt from them, and we'll get it posted out to you and whatnot. If you're already subscribing on YouTube, you're automatically in the draw, so there's no need to unsubscribe and then subscribe again, so you're near the top of the list. We started on 390 subscribers. We'll be doing the draw when we pass 500, so it's not to say we'll definitely be giving the shirt out this week. It could be if 110 new people subscribe this week, then we'll be doing it during this week. If it takes 5 months, it takes 5 months. Hopefully it doesn't take 5 months, but that's where we're at.
Sounds good. So, yeah, find us on YouTube and hit subscribe. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions, a couple of quotes. Everybody wants a bit of a say. So we'll just go down to the bottom. Scott says, do we still need a winger with Iwobi's improvement, Tony?
Yeah, we need someone that can play on the right, I think, desperately. I know we don't really like shopping in January, and Raul Sanllehi said that we're not going to enter the market in January, although he has to say that. But for me, as I said, it doesn't have to be top class. Everyone always mentions the Dembeles or the £50 million signings, but just someone that is adept at playing there would suit me. It doesn't have to be a huge name. So it's not, as I said, if Iwobi was doing what he was doing on the left, on the right, then the answer would probably be no. But the fact is, Iwobi is a million times better on the left than he is on the right. And playing Mkhitaryan on the right is also another square peg in a round hole, and the same with Ozil. So for me, I think we just need an adept right winger.
Mm-hmm. Scott also says, can Kolasinac improve enough to replace Monreal I've never thought so and didn't see the match tonight, but a friend thinks he could. Schwinn.
Look, I thought Kolasinac was decent yesterday. We all know he is good going forward and lacks something in the defensive department. And yesterday, again, he did, especially in the defensive department. But I thought when he was in position, he was all right. It's the recovery aspect that hurts him. But if he's already there, then I think he was able to sort his feet out. He was very strong, then let Salah turn on a couple of occasions. And in general, I thought he had a decent performance, especially considering that he hasn't really had a lot of game time under his belt. But to go on and say that he's going to replace, if he's going to be good enough to replace Monreal, I think might be a bit of a stretch at this point. We haven't seen the best of him, and I really doubt whether one game is enough to be able to make a decision on that. It's positive, but we all know that he picks up injuries very often, and maybe it's down to his weight. Maybe it's just something genetic. I'm not sure, but if that's the case, then obviously not. You need a backline that can pretty much stay fit through the full season, because those partnerships are probably the most important partnerships in a football team. Mm-hmm. So I'll be a bit more cautious in saying he's going to be good enough, but I sincerely hope so, because it's going to save us some money that we can invest somewhere else.
Yep. Okay. Sandy says, Tony, why do pundits have an agenda against Arsenal? Also, the commentators are annoying as well. So often when a decision goes for us, you repeatedly hear about this through the match.
It's very difficult for me to say on commentators, because I don't listen to them, because I'm not watching the game on TV. And I only catch highlights packages, and they never really reference anything but big decisions. So it's hard for me to answer that part of it. In terms of on pundits, it's simply Arsenal sells. I mean, sells. They get clicks, and we get big numbers through our fan base being slightly mental. So it's no publicity is bad publicity. So it's probably a wise thing to talk about Arsenal for a pundit. If you're trying to grow your name and get people talking about you, there's probably no better way than to reference Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I was just thinking, and Schwinn, did you notice that game? I didn't notice any of the commentators saying too much about Arsenal last night.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, if we both had the same feed yesterday, Peter Drury and Jim Beglin were on. And I'll confess, I have a man crush on Peter Drury, but yesterday I thought it was pretty fair. I thought there was no particular incident that was blown out of proportion, and there wasn't, I didn't ever hear either of them saying that Liverpool are the better team on the day, or that they deserve to bag all the 3 points.
If anything, I think they said that at the start they'd all predicted Liverpool, but hey, even I fucking predicted Liverpool. By half time, they were saying, well, this is a different Arsenal team than we all expected. So,
I would agree. I think, of course, we don't know which commentators Sandeep is talking about. Maybe it's, he's referencing some past game. It's possible, because as Tony said, Arsenal sells. And, because our fan base is a bit mental, we tend to lash out. I mean, in the build-up to this game, so many people were giving Paul Merson so much hate. And, I just want to tell these people that don't reply to any of these tweets. Don't reply, don't retweet, don't like, don't make a meal out of it. Don't give them the footage that they desperately want. By engaging with them, you're giving them exactly what they want, even if you're abusing them left, right, and center. Just abstain. Let your team do the talking. And then, make merry of whatever happened. Just take it easy. Step back. Don't give them the footage is all I'll say.
Are you calling me a fucking whack job?
No, I mean, I haven't seen you retaliate to Paul Merson, for example, over the last week.
No.
Because you don't give a fuck, right?
Arsenal fans, you're a bit loopy. You calling me fucking
No,
loopy?
we are. We are. We were tracking Aubameyang's flight from Dortmund. And we crashed that website, whichever website that was. That's who we are.
Yeah, I know.
We're desperate, and we wanted this for so long that we go the extra mile, and pundits and broadcasters are very much aware of that.
I didn't know that fucking Merson bloke was until you fucking. I just saw Kevin Campbell tweeted him today asking him a question. I thought, what's Big Kev up to? And so I'm still not real sure what the old mate's on about. That's how much I care. So, yeah, just chillax, lads. Just take a chill pill. I got one here for you, Schwinn. You got a fan. Ram. Hi, Schwinn. You flog. How good was Holding today? When Socrates is available for selection, would you have Hold Sock or continue with Mustang?
Interesting. I mean, yeah, I have said over the past couple of weeks that, I would expect Socrates to slot right back in. And I would continue with that. I think Holding has enjoyed this rich vein of form. And maybe it is a bit unfair to take him out when Socrates is back. Especially a center-back partnership is not something you want to ruin. And I think Holding yesterday had a decent game. I think it's being blown out of proportion just a tad bit that he had Salah in his pocket and whatnot. He obviously lacks certain physical attributes. I think Holding will go on to become a very, very important Arsenal player in the future. But at this point, I would imagine Socrates slots back in when he's 100% fit. And I think I would be in agreement with that. I am curious to know what you guys think about it, though.
I like Holding, but I have to agree with you. I like Socrates more. So I hate Mustafi's brain farts, but fuck, he was good yesterday. So it's got to be Socrates, Mustafi. Although I think I agree with what you said, Schwinn. Holding is there, and it's a very good problem to have, and it's to have a young player like Holding sitting there ready to come in. I like that problem. So Socrates, Mustafi. I'll go to Tony though.
It's a difficult one because Holding's not the type of player that can come in for a game. He's never at his best when he's in and out of the team. He's always looked at his best when he's had a run. If you look at the cup final, which is obviously where he kind of first made his name, he played pretty much 10 games in a row before that. And then everyone took notice of him in the cup final because of the way he played against Diego Costa. Again, this time he's now probably at least 5 in a row. And we haven't lost any of them. He's looked comfortable pretty much in most of the games. And I probably think our best two is Musti and Socrates. But it's difficult with Holding because I don't know if he'll want to keep him in the team and keep up this level of confidence and performance. I think the international break's coming at a bad time for Holding because I think he would keep Holding in the team if it was continuous games. But now there's going to be 2 weeks off anyway. Barring any injuries or anything, I think on our first game back, I think is Bournemouth away, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's Socrates and Musti. I'd probably expect it to be Socrates and Musti in them against Bournemouth.
And then look, it's a very good problem because we've also got bloody Mafropanos too. We haven't seen a lot of, so you got 2 young defenders ready to go. And they reckon this Mafropanos is pretty good. So. It's a bit about fucking pundits today. So defence is asked. Commentators and the general punditry are on about the disallowed goal for them. Tony and Schwinn's opinions on this, please.
As I said earlier, for me it's a goal. I think the rule's wrong, but by the letter of the rule, it's a goal.
He's talking about the offside, should be. So he's going on and said offside should be called when the pass is played, period. When the ball was played, Mane was ahead and offside. Firmino was onside, but that was post facto. What the fuck are the commentators and pundits on about? Am I missing something?
Well, yeah, I mean, he said what the rule should be, and I agree 100% with him. But that's not what the rule is. So I think that's maybe where his anger or whatnot is coming from. The reason the rule changed, and I don't know, obviously, the age of defence or Rudran. But the reason the rule was changed is there was a spate in maybe, I think, the late 90s or early 2000s where the ball was played through the middle. Someone 30 yards away on the left wing was offside. The guy runs through the middle and scores, and the linesmen were putting their flag up. Because where Rudran's saying, the flag should go up when the ball's played, but the ball wasn't played to Mane, it's played to Firmino, who was well onside. So this is where the kind of grey area exists. And it's why the rule was changed. So saying if the flag should go up when the ball's played, if Mane was standing by the corner flag having a chat to someone, is that offside then? Even though the ball's gone nowhere near him? It is a grey area. For me, I think it should go back to the active in play. And for me, Mane, was clearly in a position to gain an advantage. And anyone who is on the penalty spot or within the area in the middle of the goal, for me, is seen as active. So I think, as I said, I think the rule's wrong. I don't think the commentators are wrong in what they're saying about it. And even in the question, they said that the flag should go up when but that's not the rule. The rule is when the ball's touched, and as I said, it wasn't touched by Mane.
So as the rule stands, it was offside and should have been awarded offside. However,
no. As the rule stands, it should have been a goal.
It should have been a goal. Hang on.
I actually think the linesman just fucked up. I actually think the linesman just fucked up, and he thought Mane was offside when Firmino shot. I think the linesman's just made a mistake.
Yeah. Okay.
No, well, I think they showed at halftime that when the ball was played by Trent Alexander-Arnold, and by the time the ball was struck by Firmino, the linesman was nowhere in line. He was at least 5-10 yards ahead of play, and he could have never made that decision accurately. And I think he just raised his flag in a haste. As you said, Tony, I think he was uncertain. But what the point that defense is making is that he says offside is or should be called when the pass is played, and that's false. Offside is when the ball is played. It's not as you don't classify the ball being a pass or a shot or whatever. And when the ball was played last, before Mane got involved, was Firmino. So, and at that point, Mane was back on side. So, as you said, Tony, I would agree. Yeah, that puts him back on, and that goal should stand. I think it's a clear, bad decision, if you will. And Liverpool fans will argue that they got robbed. And I would empathize with that, but
look,
who gives a fuck?
They probably did get robbed, but look, at the end, look, who cares? Fuck them. Fucking useless cunts. Yeah. Suck shit. Okay, and let's get on to another one. Justin, I've been thinking a lot about this question, actually. So I'll get both of your opinions on it. So we'll start with you, Schwinn. Should we do a swap deal in January with Ramsey going to Man U or United, and we get Martial in return? Jose seems to fancy Ramsey, and Martial wants out.
I think on paper this exchange looks very tempting. I think Ramsey will probably not hit his heights at United, as United fans seem to think, or as Jose seems to think. And I think Martial can bring a lot, again, as a winger to the team. But you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say no, because I'm not quite sure whether Martial is the one that we need on the right. I think he's extremely talented, very creative and crafty on the left. But we already have players there. We shoehorn Aubameyang in. We've obviously come to the consensus that Iwobi is much better on the left, and that's the only position he should be played. And throwing Martial into the mix over there might just crowd people and leave some people on the bench. So I think it's best for us to target someone on the right, out and out, who we know can will thrive in that position and can maybe be used on the left or even centrally. And for me, Martial is not that player. Okay,
and what about you, Tony?
In terms of position and whatnot, I pretty much agree with everything Schwinn just said. But also in terms of the deal would just never happen. Ramsey, as of all of Arsenal's stupid announcements, is valueless. Because everyone knows he's not going to be offered the contract. So the only reason Alexis got the move, because it was a similar situation, was because United were scared of City getting in ahead of them. And they didn't want Mkhitaryan. It's not like they swapped a valuable asset of theirs for one they wanted. They wanted to get in ahead of City, who they thought were after him, who it turns out weren't. And they were offloading someone that they didn't want in the process. They clearly want Martial. They keep offering him contracts. He's on fire in the last few weeks. So it's not a valueless asset to them. So I think I've seen a lot of people, and this isn't a dig at Justin, I've seen a lot of people mention similar, but I just think like there is zero chance of that deal happening. So as much as I agree with Schwinn about I like him on the left, I don't like him on the right, I think you can just cut this story before it starts and say it's not going to happen. So I don't need to consider where he can and can't play.
Okay. Well, that fucking smashed that dream straight out of the water, boys. No, but I agree.
You were tempted that.
Oh, no.
Was it, Tess?
Well, the reason I said I've been thinking about it for some time is because we need a right winger. And do I go, okay, Ramsey doesn't look like he's signing. Ramsey looks like he's out. But do you want to hang on to Ramsey for January, or do you want to, just let him play out his contract and off he goes? Now, Martial, do we want a Martial knowing that he works better on a left? We've got a Wobie there who can play left. We've got a Aubameyang who's, they're fighting for that position at the moment. So bringing in Martial does what, really? We still haven't got an out-and-out right wing, have we? That was my dilemma on the whole thing. I wasn't even thinking of could it be a deal or would it be a deal. I was more thinking of how practical it would be. Where are we? Jonas. Seeing that this fixture was a good indication of where we are at the moment, are we where you expected us to be at the start of the season? Interesting. Schwinn?
We are further ahead of where I expected us to be completely honest. You guys, just spoke about the game and what it means to us into this season, and I think Liverpool's reaction to conceding, Klopp's reaction in particular, Emery's antics on the sideline, the way the game panned out. When you look at all these facts, I think there is a clear indication from the rest of the league. We live in a bubble, so it's best to step out and see how others react. I think we made a statement yesterday. I'm not saying that because we got the draw. Let's imagine we never got that equalizer and the game ended 1-0 to Liverpool. I don't think the tone of today's podcast would have been much different because we all witnessed a very courageous and bold performance. Certain things didn't happen in the attacking third. You can maybe give some of that to Liverpool because I thought defensively they were very, very good on the day. But we showed a lot of fight. We showed something that Tony hates to talk about. We showed a lot of passion. We showed a lot of grit. We showed a lot of adaptability with the subs we made. And we didn't give up till the very end. The Hector Bellerin chance that we spoke about that came off his left foot, came off Danny Welbeck harrying Trent Alexander-Arnold, flashing a ball in. And, as things panned out, then Hector Bellerin had a shot on goal. Again, we could have stolen something from the game yesterday. So I think when you look at all these factors, not just in the Liverpool game, but over the last 16 weeks, or how many ever weeks it's been, 12 weeks, I think we have been pleasantly surprised. And there was a lot of talk about be careful what you wish for when Arsene was still around, whether if we let Arsene go, whether the squad will be able to cope, because a lot of people doubted the quality we had. And I think that argument has been put to bed, honestly. I think the enhanced tactical approach has mightily helped us. It's helped certain young players like Rob Holding, Iwobi, grow and take on players like Salah and the Liverpool attacking line yesterday. A year ago, this game would have been a dead rubber. We would have counted it out completely. So I think there's a lot of confidence that has been ensued, not just into the squad, but into the fan base. And that shows by the position on the league table.
It would have been one of them games, Schwinn, when we went down the 1-0, and I thought, shit, we've all said it, like we're pretty. It was heartbreaking to see us go 1-0 down, and I thought, shit, I hope we get back in this because I felt that we deserve a point, if not, and I still think that obviously maybe I'm a bit biased too, that we were the better team on the day. But if we had lost this game, as you were just talking then, it would have been one of them games at the end of the season. If we had just been out the top four, this would have been the game that we probably would have gone back and went, fuck, you know what? We were very unlucky against Liverpool. That was the game there that we could have got the 3 points, and that's what was going through my head at the time of the game. When we went down 1-0, but then when we got the goal back, I was fucking beauty, boys. They deserved it, and so. I think, look, obviously we have been against the odds. I don't think, obviously we'd all like us to finish top four, but did we think that we were going to be here? And did you think that we were, going to be as good as we have been against Liverpool? And as Tony said, I just hope that it continues now, because playing the Wolves next week, that's the turning point now. So, you want to add anything onto that, Tony?
Yeah, just to say, I mean, we often spoke when Emery was appointed, it was about performance, not so much positioning. Because if you look at it from a complete fact-based model, we're fifth in the league, which is below maybe expectations. So it doesn't look, do you know what I mean? It doesn't look ideal. But for me, we're further ahead of where I expected to be. But that's what I'm saying. You have to base it on performance, not just plainly we're fifth in the league. Yeah. We expected to be higher. And also, like, I've seen some people say, oh, yeah, but we drew with Liverpool last year, so it's not all that. And we obviously did. And we came from behind. So, but again, you've got to look at the level of performance. When you're judging progress, I don't think you can just look at blankly, oh, we're lower in the league than I expected to be. And we drew with Liverpool last year, so drawing with them this year isn't much of I don't want to say achievement, because it's never an achievement to draw, but much of I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, but I think you look at the level of performance and how we're producing on the pitch, we're ahead of where I thought we'd be.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, you walked out of the stadium yesterday and went, you know what? We really took it to them. We could have won that game. Well, I don't want to say could have won that game, but you know what I mean. Like, we're on par with them.
Yeah, no, I believe we're every bit as good as them. But in all fairness to Liverpool, they've been doing it every week, and we haven't. I know we've been on the run, a good run, but they go to Palace and win. We went to Palace and draw. You can argue the aspects of it, whether it was a dive, whether our goal should have been allowed or whatnot. But the fact is, they go there and win. City come to us, and I know it was early in the season. City come to us and blow us away, really. It's 0-0 at Liverpool. We go to Chelsea, end-to-end game, we end up losing it. Liverpool go there, and they were much the worst side against Chelsea. They get a draw. So this is just the levels of, we're every bit as good as them, but we now have to show it every week.
Yep, inconsistency. Okay, defence. Question to Tony. Tony, you flog. How was the atmosphere in the stadium? In your recent memory, where would you rank this against Liverpool's 3-3 last season and the Welbeck winner against Leicester, when we all thought we'd win the league in 2016 February?
It was very loud yesterday. It doesn't compare to either of them two. But, well, it doesn't. Yesterday was, I'd say, I'm just making up numbers here, but I'd say 80% loud for the whole game. We was good the whole time. Even when they scored, which is probably the most pleasing thing. When they scored, the cheer that went up from the Arsenal fans, there were some players on the floor, I think it was Kolasinac, and like players on their knees. And the roar from the Arsenal fans to try and get behind them and get them going was amazing. And we was loud throughout the whole game, every tackle, every chance. Whereas them Leicester and Liverpool games that he mentioned, they were isolated incidents. So that 5 minutes against Liverpool last year, we was ridiculously loud. But we wasn't like that throughout the whole game. And then that Leicester game, we wasn't really loud for the whole game, but that Welbeck header is probably the loudest I've ever heard the Emirates. So it's different. I'd say in terms of one-off moments, you can't compare it to them two games. But throughout the 90 minutes, we was probably as good as we've been in a long time. Atletico at home was very similar to yesterday in terms of atmosphere, but you don't get too many nights like that.
Okay, one question here. Well, we got something here from Clay. Been impressed with Holding so far. Will Will Kosh, I'd seen you and Schwinn talking about this during the week on our WhatsApp group. Start over Holding once he's back. What's Holding's potential? Seems high to me. Also, Mickey's frustrating to watch. Poor work rate and bad passing in this game. Had a good flick pass to Aubameyang. Would you start Welbeck on the right next game? Tony, and it wasn't so much, but it was. You boys were having a chat about Kolasinac, weren't you?
Koscielny.
Oh, sorry, Koscielny, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry, Koscielny.
Yeah, just reports that basically Arsenal have told him he's no longer needed there, and they're looking for a way out for him. So that indicates that he's probably not going to get back in the team. As a lot of people have mentioned, who would your perfect partnership be when he's back? Indicates that they don't see that as being an option. I would be very surprised if he comes back from an injury like that, especially at his age and as he's a pace-based player. For your Achilles to go, to me, I think he's probably finished. But I wish him all the best, and I hope he's not. In terms of on the right, I think as much as I don't rate Mkhitaryan defensively, well, I think he's awful defensively, it's weird because he doesn't help the right back, but he is quite good at pressing. So I think calling him lazy is probably a bit unfair. I still wouldn't want him there, but I think it's probably a bit unfair to call him lazy. The issue with Danny is you get the pace, the power, the pressing, the defensive help. So you get a lot of things that Mickey doesn't give you. He's just not good enough on the ball. And this is from a big Welbeck fan. You can't play that link-up football with him. So unless you're going to play more of a kick-and-run based game or play him slightly higher up and let Mez float about and try and find the pace in behind of Laka, Welbeck and Aubameyang, then that's an option. But I can't really see Welbeck coming in on the right as a straight swap for a Mickey or an Iwobi.
Okay. Cosman Buta, based on our performances versus Chelsea, fuck, that was a long time ago, and Liverpool, how do you think we'll fare against the Spurs and United and better opposition in the upper stages of Europa League, Schwinn?
I think
Sorry,
the
Schwinn,
big
I've
games.
just got to add, he's because he's asked two questions. It's very similar. Seeing the team play versus City, Chelsea, and Liverpool, do you also think we are now in a better position when playing against big teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that first. And I think, yes, that is quite spot on. I think, we always accused Arsene of not being able to inject motivation in our squad. And I think with Emery, that will never be the case because he's the orchestrator, as I said earlier. And to an extent, when you're enjoying this momentum, you're enjoying your football, you'll look forward to these games, especially when there's so much noise coming from the media, from the pundits, that you're soft and you'll be torn to pieces by a team like Liverpool. That does help galvanize the squad and get that extra from the players. And I think we saw that yesterday. I'm not too worried about these games. I think Emery and the staff do a very good job in getting these players ready tactically and mentally. I think what I'll be looking for is how we play, some of the inferior teams, especially when we go away from home, because those games can be really tough. December, January are very, very challenging times of the season. A lot of fixtures, and it's cold. It's really dreadful conditions to play, but your expectations, the fans' expectations don't drop because of that. If anything, they're higher. So I'm not too worried about the big games. I think we'll be very well positioned to compete in those games. But as fixtures come thick and fast, we'll have to make sure that we treat every game equally because every game is worth the same amount of points.
Okay, that RC fellas, a bit of a everybody's a bit happy with how we performed over Liverpool because that RC fella. How positive or not are you feeling after the effort v Liverpool regarding our top 4 chances for the season? How much has changed since before the match? I'll go with Tony.
It's a difficult one because I think I've seen that our ceiling is higher, our top level of performance is higher than I expected. But as I said earlier, for me, the games against other big teams are vanity. You do it to say, we matched this team or we beat this team, we beat that team. The real hard work is against the other teams just because there's more of them. As I said, I would take the 28 wins against the lesser sides and happily lose, or 26 wins, sorry, and happily, no, yeah, 28 wins and lose the 10 against the other, and you'd be guaranteed top four. So I think the ceiling of level, I'm impressed by it. I think it's higher than I thought. But it all comes down to consistency. And as Schwinn just said, in December and January, that's when you'll find out about consistency. We've been very consistent so far. And that's obviously amazing. But when you start getting into the back end of November, December, January, when, as Schwinn said, the pitches are horrible, it's freezing, all the grounds are new to Emery, teams are more happy with a point because the squads are a stretch, you're playing every 3 days, you're travelling, that's when the truth will come out. We are in with a shout of the top four. I think anyone can see that. I don't think yesterday said to me we're definitely going to get top four. But then if we would have lost 4-0 yesterday, I also wouldn't have said we're definitely not going to get top four.
Yeah, I would have fucking been very disappointed at 4-0.
Oh, I'd have been disappointed. But as I said, them games are vanity. If you beat the other 28, if you win the other 28 games, it don't matter what you do in them in these big against these big sides. As I said, I don't think I would have been seriously disappointed if we lost 4-0 yesterday. But I wouldn't have come out thinking, oh, that means we're definitely coming sixth, because someone's going to lose them games. Tottenham have lost to Liverpool. Tottenham have lost to City. They're not sitting there thinking, oh, we're definitely not coming top four. But the way it is with Arsenal fans, and maybe it is because we've had a couple of bad seasons, if we'd have lost that game yesterday, people have gone, oh, see, I knew we weren't going to make top four.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Okay, Hakon Larson, he's got a couple of points and a couple of questions, boys. So very quiet on Twitter, not many pundits, etc. that expected this from us. Fucking love it. They all waited for us to get smashed and to say they were right all along. Why do you think we rarely get praise and credit when we deserve? Anyone got a point on that? And what did he say? Did we learn anything from this game? Schwinn.
I mean, there's not a whole lot to add to what I've said before. I think the response, no team has come back from losing positions to rescue a point or win the game than we have this season. That says a lot about the mentality of the team, and the fact that we controlled the game. It's not easy against a team like Liverpool, despite playing at home, when they have that energy in midfield, and to be calm with a makeshift backline. I'll call Holding and Kolasinac makeshift just for this incident. It's not easy to control the game like that the way we did, and just on the day. I did say that the goal Liverpool scored knocked the wind out of my sails. But when you look back at the game, there's not a whole lot to be negative about. The substitutions worked, as unorthodox as you want to call them, and all in all, there's not a whole lot or anything actually that you can pick out and say this went bad. We got a bit lucky with the goals that were disallowed, and maybe we should have got a goal or two more, but. In general, I think it's all up and up, all positive from my regard.
Mm-hmm. Hakon Larson, how good was Chera and Granite today? Yes, we all agree. Granite was excelente. Chera was very good too. No, agree with the boys. Mustafi, shout out there. Ozil, however, that's another story. Hakon Larson, I was actually surprised at how comfortable we looked playing out from the back, that we could see how careful Liverpool was with the pressing. That is a good thing. They knew what we were capable of. Just on that though, obviously Czech, he's due back. Well, he's due back now. Do you continue with Leno, Tony, or do you, or them couple of little mistakes yesterday? Said to you that I want Czech back in goals?
No, he'll stick with Leno. Czech obviously played on Wednesday, so he was available. And he made not the goal. The goal was not Czech's fault, but he made a mistake playing out from the back and it nearly cost us. And I think that says enough, really. He's going to stay with Leno. In terms of him saying about being pressed, Liverpool didn't overly press, which surprised me. as it was. Maybe it was a bit of respect or fear of what we were capable of. But they didn't. I expected them, especially for the first 20 minutes, to commit 5 or 6 people to the press and just not let us out at all. Because I still think, even though we're playing a lot better from the back, we don't commit enough people at times, and it leaves people without options. There was only 1 or 2 times that happened yesterday. There was one occasion when Leno rolled the ball out to Xhaka, and he literally had no options, and he put it out for a throw on. And I was surprised, because a lot of people at Arsenal are more than happy to moan at anything Granit does, but everyone was like, "Oh, that's a stupid ball from Leno," and it was. But usually people get on Granit's back for things like that. But yeah, I thought we judged it really well yesterday.
Okay, Kurnos. He says Granit ranked first in the team for tackles, touches, recoveries, distance, ran in the game, played like a man possessed. Where are all the haters gone? You forgot to mention he's also the best looking bloke in the field as well. I question some of the substitutes though from Emery today, especially Aubameyang, who's our top scorer this season, but risk equals rewards seems to be his approach to things. Comment on that, Schwinn?
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with him, because I also felt a bit confused when the substitutions were made. Didn't quite understand taking Aubameyang off. Obviously, Iwobi slotting in a left back was as impromptu and improvised as you can expect. Obviously, it's not something that we're going to see in the future unless we're chasing a game with 5-10 minutes to go. But all in all, I think, as Tony said, the subs vindicated themselves. You know, it's something that is seen as a genius master stroke when it pans out, and is seen as blatantly stupid when it doesn't. You know, we don't have to look far back than Crystal Palace, for example, to know that the subs didn't work on the day. And that could have very well been the case yesterday. But the fact that Iwobi was the one that slotted Lacazette in, and the fact that Iwobi was enjoying time on the ball in the position he was maybe a consequence of the fact that he was deployed at left back. So it's hard to disagree with Emery as well. And he can feel free to give me a ring and call me a twat as well.
Okay, so that's all the questions we've got from everybody this week. Thank you for your questions, and we often get a tweet out. No, I've got more actually, but I'll continue on. We get a tweet out just after the game. I've actually just remembered, Schwinn, you mentioned some in the live callers from Maddie, so I've got a couple from Maddie, boys. Questions for the podcast. When we concede first, I thought we will score and never had nervous creeped in. Did you or the fans at the Emirates feel it as well, Tony?
As I said, there was a big roar of like everyone getting behind the team and trying to pick them back up. I probably thought it wasn't going to come, to be honest. As I said, I feel it was deserved. I thought it wasn't going to come. There was probably just before Welbeck came on as well. It was the fans started to, I don't want to say boo, but they didn't boo. That's wrong. There was mutterings because Lacazette was dropping into midfield and going wide, and then there was no one in the box. And obviously we were 1-0 down. He'd taken Aubameyang off, and it just sort of looked like with this defence, their defence being so solid, and us having absolutely no one in the area, it kind of we were not given up on it, but you struggled to see how we was going to score. Then obviously the Welbeck change helped that a little bit. I wouldn't say I was as confident as Maddie if he says that when we conceded he instantly thought, we're definitely going to score. I can't say I was that confident, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And another one from Maddie. I think we should play the Carabao Cup team for the Europa League this week. I feel we need to prioritise the league over Europa League now, as we have almost through to the next round. Do you boys agree? Schwinn?
I'm just quickly pulling up the table here because I don't remember.
9. We're on 9. Sporting are on 6. A win wins us the group. A draw pretty much wins us the group.
That's exactly it, because they see head-to-heads now, right? If there is a draw. Yeah, so I think maybe this week we can not necessarily go with a Carabao Cup squad, but a bit stronger than that. It probably doesn't have to be as strong as it has been in the first 2 or 3 weeks, even in the Carabao in the Europa League. But this next game is important, just because we want to give ourselves that breathing room. I don't think though that Emery will necessarily field out weak teams even in the 5th and the 6th game of the group. I think we can expect to see some strength. We'll definitely see players on the bench. We won't see a Mesut Ozil or Lacazette or Aubameyang given the day off. I think he'd like to have them available, but I mean there is some certain travel as well, especially the game in Borskla, which is quite a journey. So maybe that game we can expect to see some players rotated out and given the day off. But Karabakh at home, Sporting at home, I think we can expect to see some strength.
Okay, I've found some more questions, boys. Vish, we'll just skim over them because we have touched on all these. What did you think Mkhitaryan's performance? We all said he was a bit sad. I felt that he played in large spells of the game when he ignored Lacazette, who was free to shoot, decided to make the difficult pass to Aubameyang, which ended in the attack breaking down. Brilliant display, and loved the resilience and fighting spirit of the team as well as the atmosphere from the fans. Do you think that knobhead Paul Mersons will eat humble pie after stating Liverpool will smash Arsenal by 3 goals? I look back to what Schwinn said earlier, Vish. I just ignore it, mate. Who cares what?
To be fair, I think Merson has done a tweet saying I got it wrong. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, okay. Pete says, have you guys heard about the Ajax guy that we were linked to in January? Any thoughts, especially of Ramsey looking more and more likely to leave us at the end of the season? You boys, anyone shed some light there? I've never heard of it.
The only one I can think of is the Argentinian fullback, which may be the case. He's a left back, but doesn't have any relation to Ramsey, as far as I'm aware.
I think I know the bloke he's talking about now. I just can't think of his name.
Is he talking about Frankie de Jong?
Yeah, him. That's the bloke. I remember.
Yeah, there's no way we can afford Frankie de Jong. He'll probably go for upwards of 50 million, especially with City snooping around if reports are true.
Yeah, no. I actually read a report that Monica are looking at bloody Smith Rowe.
Well, Omri.
Yeah. So
Won't let him go.
That's interesting. Not on loan.
No, he's too involved. I mean, he was on the bench yesterday. He wouldn't have been had Guendouzi been fit, but he's I think when someone's on the cusp like that, they like to keep them there and training with you, especially as Monaco are doing terribly.
Oh yeah, they're playing shit, aren't they?
Yeah, I think on Omri's 4 games, is it 2 losses and 2 draws? I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's his fault though. I think it's the fucking.
No, I'm not blaming him, but I'm saying, why are you going to take him to a relegation battle to train with a different team at a different tempo? Everything's completely different. When, as I said, he's on the cusp. He's going to play. He's almost certainly going to play in the last 3 Europa League games. He probably won't play against Tottenham in the Cup. But you need a big squad over December. I mean, he couldn't go on loan on until January anyway. So we'll see more then about how much he's been involved. But I'd be very surprised if it happens.
PM says we need a right winger and probably another centre half. Who would you like to see come in? Who would you like to see come in, boys? Right winger.
Well, as I said, I'd settle for someone that can actually play there. We can all live in this dream world of Dembele. The rumours have started again.
You didn't want to settle for my bloke at the fucking start of the season.
I want someone who's right-footed.
We should have got bloody Shaqiri back in then.
1 goal and spent about 30 million on him.
Did you say you want someone who's right-footed, Tony?
Yeah.
I thought you would prefer someone who's left-footed and can cut in, because I thought you weren't quite a fan of inverted wingers.
if the issue is we need to stretch the pitch. At the moment, we're isolating the right, but we've got no one that can take anyone on. So the issue, if we're going to play a right-footed on the left, which we're almost certainly going to do, whether it be Aubameyang, Iwobi, Mkhitaryan, then I feel you need a right footer on that side.
I mean, personally, I would go for someone left-footed, but I mean, your point is taken.
Well, I think we need to be able to beat a man when there's a packed defence. And in general, a left footer on the right wing is going to be able to cut in and shoot, but they're not going to beat a man on the outside, because when they go past them on the outside, they can't use their right foot, or not as well as they would hope to get a cross in or zip a ball across the box or whatever. So for me, we need someone that can beat a man. And for me, if you're going to beat a man, you might as well be right-footed. Otherwise, you get the effect we had when we first started playing Nasri on the left, where he was beating people for fun, but then he'd have to turn back all the time because he couldn't do anything with his left foot. So for me, I want someone that can beat a man on the outside. Because if they beat him on the inside and come into left foot, they're just coming back into more traffic.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, if that's the benchmark, then I mean, I would love for us to go into someone like Christian Pulisic. Right? I mean, I don't know how much he's going to cost. I don't know his contractual situation, how many years he's got left. But I think that's the sort of player, the age bracket. We obviously know Sven is a big fan. He's obviously proven himself in the Bundesliga this year. I don't think he's been that good, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he's someone with a lot of promise, so he would be a good fit.
Yeah, I think. I think the issue is I don't know what they're going to do, because I think long term they probably see Reece in that role. Right-footed, plays on the right in general. I know he scored coming from the left yesterday, but in general he plays from the right. So I don't know. I don't even know if they will go after anyone. We've obviously heavily been linked with Sancho again, which I don't think we could afford. But again, he's in that same mould. Right-footed, plays on the right. Again, can play on the left, but in general plays on the right and is right-footed.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's just signed a new contract as well, and from reports that are coming out, he's got a release clause of 130. So there's no way we're going to be fishing in that market. But I mean, I think a left footer can also give us some options. I'm a big fan of Alphonso Davies, who plays for the Vancouver Whitecaps, but he's obviously signed with Bayern Munich. So he's going to be there, I think, at the end of this MLS season, if I'm not wrong. Then, I mean, there are players. Ajax, again, we were talking about. So David Neres is there, who's been pretty good. Again, left-footed, likes to come in, has a good cross on him as well. Leon Bailey is another one that gets thrown around a lot, but I don't know if Leon Bailey likes to play on the right. I think he's more of a left-footed that likes to play on the left. But, I mean, let's be honest, we just don't know who Sven is going to go in for, because I think the Torreira and the Guendouzi template is what we'll be going in for. And I think it's fair to say that whoever comes in is going to be quite an unknown.
I agree. Someone would never fucking heard of. But
I wouldn't be surprised if no one comes in and he waits for Reece. Really wouldn't be surprised. Probably what I expect at this point.
Yeah, could work.
He asked for center backs too, right?
I'm just looking. Yeah, I think he did. Yes.
Any shouts on center backs? Any preferences, boys?
I don't think we need any, do we? What do we need?
If Koscielny,
waste money there for?
Well, I mean, we have Holding, Mustafi, who's obviously suspect most of the time. Well, not most of the time, but quite a lot. And Socrates, who's obviously aging, and you want to be ahead of yourself in that regard.
Mafropanos there as well. You've got Chambers to come back.
I think left back is a more problem area than centre back, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'd say left back. Yeah, just proved to us.
Yeah, that's a fair shot. Yeah, left back is something we're struggling in as well. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Mavropanos is that we've obviously seen a bit of him and we've been surprised by him, but how much of that is going to be a long-term consistent?
Look, I agree with you
that's
there,
what you take for your. He's currently fourth choice, arguably fifth choice when Chambers comes back. So your fourth or fifth choice centre back is that long-term project with potential.
I don't want to be going out and spending 50 million on a centre back for what reason though? that rules out, obviously, Holding, rules out Chambers and Mafropanos. Because then they pushed back to, well, as Tony said, what, 5th choice, Mafropanos will be pushed back to a 6th choice, possibly will go out on loan. Chambers, like, what can we, can you loan him again next season? Like, surely at some point he's got to be worthy to make the team somewhere. And then you get Mustafi, Socrates, and Holding. Holding's banging on the door at the moment, isn't he? So I don't think we need a waste our money there at the moment.
Well, I
do think Chambers will be sold in the summer, but I still don't think we need one.
And I'll throw into the mix that maybe even Mustafi. If we get a decent offer for him, there's no way you're going to make money on that sale. I think compared to what we paid for him, whatever offer we get is going to be much lower than that. But I wouldn't necessarily count out the possibility of him leaving if Emery decides that, over the course of a season, I don't think he has enough resilience to omit those mistakes. So so far it's hard to say that Mustafi is going to be out, but knowing Mustafi, there's still a big possibility that he may not be wanted by Emery.
And we've still got Kashani, Okay.
Well, it's his last year of his contract. And I can see him seeing the year out. Maybe not sold in January, but I don't see us giving him an extension.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't think we know. I think there's other areas that we can focus on. Obviously, that right wing, it needs to happen. I'd like that happen in January. I don't know if it will, but Tony makes a good point on. He probably will wait for bloody Royce to come back. So, then if you wait for Royce to come back, do you look for a plan B there too, Tony, or do you just take the gamble on?
Oh, I think he sees plan B as what we've got at the moment, or what we've got at the moment as plan A, and Reece is plan B. He's definitely not going to go out and sign 2 of them. No. He didn't think we needed 1 this summer. He's not going to suddenly think, we didn't need 1 in the summer, but we need 2 in January.
That'll be interesting, boys. Okay, I got one more question, I think, or 2 more. PM, we need a right winger. Yes, we'll just discuss that. Rory says, why did Lacazette and Torreira have such sharpness? And is Lacazette more important or Arsenal than Aubameyang at the moment? Tony?
On the sharpness, I wouldn't single out any players being more sharp than anyone else yesterday. Torreira had a very good game, but I wouldn't say he was more sharp than anyone else. And the same as Lacazette. I thought Lacazette was very quiet yesterday. Look, the goal was great, and it is a hard game for him to get involved in, but I wouldn't. At no point did I think, he's doing amazing here with his hold up or his link up. He was just doing what we expect of him, really. In terms of more important, between Lacazette and Aubameyang, I maintain, and I'll always maintain, Aubameyang is a much better goal scorer. In terms of important to the way we play, Lacazette probably is more important. Yeah.
Okay. Righto. Well, that is it for our questions. So thank you. Midweek game, Europa League Sporting, Tony, and then followed by Wolves on the weekend, 12th of November on my time. 11th.
Oh yeah, guys. You live in a different world.
Thoughts on them 2 matches?
Yeah, Sporting, hopefully we get at least the point we need. I really hope he doesn't go strong. We saw at Palace how much we suffered when he did. I don't mean play an absolute kids team, but a mixture. As I said, hopefully someone like Socrates is back and we can bed him in there. Again, the left back situation, if Kolasinac is the only one going to be available for Wolves, I don't want to see him anywhere near the pitch on Thursday. So I don't know. Emery always surprised us because he plays much stronger teams than needed. I mean, playing Mkhitaryan last Thursday and then starting him on yesterday would have shocked everyone. Bringing Aubameyang and Torreira on against Blackpool, that didn't really make any sense. So it's hard to second guess Emery. I think he'll go stronger than we expect. But hopefully we get the point we need, and then we can write off the other 2 games if needed. Wolves, always a tough game. I know they conceded 3 yesterday, but in general, they're very good at the back. Keep things tight. Play 5 at the back as well, so they don't give you much space to play in. Be an interesting game. But as I said, we need to carry on with the momentum we've built over the last couple of months.
Yep. I won't ask for your prediction because you won't give me one, although I did hear you give a prediction on an interview the week, didn't you?
No.
Oh, no, you fucking tiptoed around it, didn't you?
I sat on the fence very comfortably.
That's right. Yeah. And he goes, I'll sit on a fucking typical fucking fence sitter. I'll sit on the fence.
It was pre-planned. Like, between me and Schwinn, we'd organised the speech before 3 hours before I'd done the interview.
I have no idea what Tony's talking about.
I have
just to put that out there.
So basically, I sat on the fence on the advice of Schwinn. He even wrote out the sentence for me.
See what happens when I'm not in the WhatsApp chat? I got no idea what goes on.
That's because you live in 1975.
I got no idea what goes on. Sporting for you, Schwinn prediction.
2-0 to the Arsenal.
Yep. Okay, I'll go 1-0 Arsenal. Wolverhampton. Your prediction, Schwinn?
That's gonna be a bit of a challenge. I watched Wolves play Tottenham last night, and Wolves could have gotten something out of that, especially late in the game. Tottenham are obviously knackered. They lost another player to injury, which is expected at this point. But Wolves are quite relentless. They have a plan A, they have a plan B. They have a lot of width in the team. That is something we might struggle to counter, just because of the formation they played. They have a very good defensive partnership between Bowley, Connor Cody, who's been very, very good. At least yesterday he was. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. As I said, these are the games that we need to make sure that we get up for, and as a team we perform. So I hope, just because of the result yesterday, we don't get a bit carried away, despite it being a draw. And it's going to be a test. I'm almost glad that the game's at home, because it would be much tougher if we were playing at the Molineux. So I'm going to be a bit conservative about the Wolves prediction and say 2-1. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think we'll edge it.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to go 2-1 as well. I don't want to alarm you, lads, because obviously we've got the Wolves coming up. We've got a 2-week break. And then we've got Bournemouth, which I think is going to be a very, very tough game. Then obviously, that'll wrap up November. And then we've got Tottenham, Manchester United. So, our next 4 games in the Premier League, boys, I'd like to take some points away. You think we can get a few points there? Tony?
I think. I think it's gonna be. I watched Bournemouth play United, and I don't think we'll struggle against Bournemouth. I think they like to play an open game, and when that's the case, we obviously know they're a bit inferior in quality. They've done very well so far. Nothing against them. I in fact enjoy watching Eddie Howe and his teams, but on the day I think we'll comfortably get past that result. Again, United and Tottenham are going to be tougher prospects, obviously. But again, I'm quietly confident. I was quietly confident for Liverpool, and I'm quietly confident for Tottenham and United too. They do come.
Games, how many points can we take away out of them 4? You reckon?
I'll say all 12.
Okay. What about you, Tony?
I don't really want to get into predicting how we're going to do in a game that's a month away. It's like 2 of them games are in December, so they're literally next month. So, I know I don't give predictions week by week, but I'm happy to give thoughts on games week by week. But stuff like that, you never know. You could get a couple of injuries on the international break. We've also got Europa League in that time. We're literally talking 6 games away. So it's always difficult to say. You never know who's going to be injured, who's going to be fit for either side. Form and confidence plays a massive part in football. So if United go and win the next 4 games on the bounce before then, we'll go into that game thinking, oh, maybe a point's not a bad result. Whereas if we're playing that game tomorrow, I'd be confident of winning. It's, as I said, I think the way a club should run itself, but also as fans, I think we should only ever look at the next game.
Okay, boys, that's it. Let's wrap this shit up, and we'll speak to you guys next week after.
Yeah, so it'll be a week and a day because we're playing on Sunday.
Righto. I'll also roll out a special interview that we'll probably do in the next couple of days. So we might roll that one out separately. Might even come out over the international break. So we'll see how we go with that. Don't forget to jump on YouTube and subscribe for your chance to win a jersey. Thank you to Urban Arsenal or Arsenal Urban. You can follow us at Clockend _talk. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks, boys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you all next week.
Bye.